everybody! Welcome to the closing ceremonies of Onyx Path Virtual Gaming Convention 2021. I almost called it Virtual Horror Convention because I've said that way too much this year. But we are not a horror convention because people have non-horror games. This is our closing ceremony. We're here. There's also an empty box here because we needed it for my ghost, who I think we named Dennis.
Is it Dennis?
I think it was Dennis.
Okay.
Okay, so Dennis is gonna, maybe show up. You never know.
Dennis.
I hope everybody's had a really good time. We do have one more event after this. That's my after party. I'll be hosting at 8 o'clock Eastern. That's going to just be literally a bunch of developers and writers playing Jackbox. And if we don't have enough developers and writers to fill all the spots, I will open it up to fans to jump in.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be streamed right here on Twitch. And as far as the developers and writers go, we'll be talking on stream, but you don't have to talk on stream because we're not going to let you in our chat room. But you can hang out and be a fan and also vote in the audience, and that should be really fun because who doesn't like Jackbox?
Who doesn't? Like
and of course, as we're streaming it, we might get some random ass people in there, but I have made at least one Onyx Path pack so that we'll have some Onyx Path related questions. And then past that, we'll just goof around and play it unwind after the con, which I've already started to do.
So if a random person comes in and you do the Onyx Path pack, and if they do really well, is that good or bad?
If they do really well, then they're obliged to buy our books.
Is that what it is?
Because they clearly understand our sense of humor.
That's fair. That's fair.
I didn't start this way, but I probably should have. I'm Dixie Cochran, pronouns she, her, in-house developer at Onyx Path Publishing, lead editor, and in charge of Chronicles and Exalted. And with me today is Eddy Webb.
Hi, I'm Eddy Webb. I am one of the other in-house developers. I'm primarily responsible for the Story Path games, some of our other licensed games, anything that Dixie Matthews is responsible for, and also the Realms of Pugmire.
Anything we're responsible for.
Anything you're not responsible for.
Oh, we're not responsible for. I thought you just took credit for all of our work.
Oh, this is awkward. I should tell you about the policy change, haven't I?
So we've been having this convention since 4 p.m. Friday. It's been super fun. I've watched a lot of the great panels that I haven't been on. I've been on some fun panels. What about you, Eddy?
Yeah, a lot of the same. I mean, to be fair, I felt like I've been on all the panels, so I don't know. I haven't really had a chance to watch much of anything else aside from the stuff I've been on. But no, it has been actually a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if this has just been because of the year it's been, but this feels like it's a lot less stressful this year. Is it because we've done this once before a few times, but now is it because it's not COVID? I mean, I don't know what the reason is, but it does feel like we're doing a lot. I feel like it just didn't seem as tense as like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on.
I mean that, and also last year we had really just thrown this together, and now we've had a year and a half of virtual conventions, so we kind of understand how they work. We're also more used to like the Zoom gaming and stuff now because we've been doing that for a year and a half. So it seems a little more normal for me to just kind of like randomly be on camera than it did in June of last year.
You know what, that is probably part of it. And also, I mean, I know we've talked about this on the Onyx Pathcast about the fact that I actually was, and now that I remember now, I was struggling with even running games in this format a year ago. And now it's like, yeah, sure, run a game, no problem. So yeah, I think it's probably a lot of it too. It's just getting used to it, normalizing this way of doing things.
Yeah, exactly. So you've of course had games going all weekend. I think the very last one will be Vorpal Tales is their regular vampire game on Sunday nights. So after the after party, if it's still going, because for all I know, the after party is going to go far. I have no idea. If people are still having fun at 11 o'clock, maybe we won't stop. But then after that, we're going to go and raid them. It'll be the very last game. And it looks like we are getting joined.
Oh, no.
We are getting joined. So we'll have our tech person, Steve, figure that out. Because, yeah.
My video is still fine, so.
I mean, yeah, I have... Ian is now me, actually.
Right.
On Twitch. Oh, and now I'm in my own box?
And now you're Dennis. You're Dennis.
I'm Dennis. I'm Dennis the Ghost.
Close enough. I thought to myself, yeah, half an hour is plenty of time to get makeup done.
See, I think that the only person who can actually say something like that is someone like me who worked at Sephora for so long, because I can turn out some like this was about a 20-minute makeup. But that's because I've been doing it for 20 years.
Right.
And professionally
I
for
have
5. No, totally. Once you get used to it, you get used to it. It's great. So either way, this is Ian A. Watson, obviously. He's our Trinity lead, does all of our social media.
As you can see from the name below me.
I mean, you can now.
Oh, good. There it is.
Yeah. Hey! Props to Steve from Vorpal Tales, who is on the fly doing this right now.
I appreciate your hard work for making up for my ridiculous stupidness.
You know, as I was saying right before you started, I can't tell you how many times I've been at a convention and gotten a text from like Matt going like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Where am I? I'm at Starbucks. It's like you're supposed to be at the booth, and I'm like, fine.
It's a little bit less excusable for a virtual convention, but thank you. Where were you? Over there.
All right, so now we're all here for closing ceremonies. We obviously didn't plan much about this. Let's talk a little bit about the con, how we think it went. We've had a couple of announcements. We announced Trinity Aether, which we can talk about a little bit if we need to, but you can just watch the other panels too. We also announced they came from the Cyclops' cave this morning.
Yes.
I popped into that just to watch that happen. We had our first live playtest of Anima, which was really, really exciting. And we had an Assassin's live play.
Yeah.
And we had what I think will be our last, well, no, Tuesday technically, but one of our last Essence plays before everybody has all the charms.
Aren't some going live today?
Some went live today.
Yes,
yeah, all the
Universal charms went live today.
Right.
And 5 sets of Exalt charms are going to go live on Tuesday. And then we'll have our actual play that night. It'll be our last actual play for the Vorpal Tales 4-shot. That we're doing to support the Kickstarter.
Oh, right. So last one before all the charms.
For all the charms, right.
Got it.
And then we'll have 5 more Exalt charms on Thursday. Charm sets, not just charms. It's more than 5 charms.
There's only 5 charms. That's all you need.
There's a lot of fucking charms.
These are truly universal charms. Just 5.
No. See, there's only 5 charms, but each of them is like 50,000 words long.
Yeah. And then Saturday is going to be sorcery, necromancy, spellcasting in general, and martial arts. So that's the biggest chapter in Exalted Essence. I have to talk about it because the Kickstarter is still ongoing. We are at, last time I checked, we were at 3174 backers. Is that still the thing?
Let me check.
3176 now. Thank you, whoever pledged in the past half hour. And when we hit 3,200, which I think we're going to do at this point, we've got 10 days to go. We are going to be adding another tier for backers, which is the custom artifact tier. We're going to work with you to make an artifact of your choice that will go into the Essence Companion.
Nice.
So that's always fun. I love doing custom stuff with backers, so we're looking forward to that. So yeah, those are all the big announcements, right? Isn't that what we did? Aether, Cyclops Cave.
Classified.
Yeah, we announced classified was classified.
Which we did announce several months ago.
That's true. No one knew we announced it.
The classified game this morning was fantastic.
Was
I don't know
it?
if anybody else watched it, but
all I've heard was that Hiromi looked fantastic. That's all I've heard so far.
Hiromi looked fantastic. John Burke was playing a character named John Bonnery, who sounded suspiciously like Sean Connery. I don't
know if he could do a Scottish accent. I'm not sure.
He did a Sean Connery accent, which is significantly worse for a Scottish accent from his own, which was really fun. For all that we've joked about Neil's impression of Matthew being Australian, Matthew actually did an Australian accent during it, playing the character Kang LaRue, who had metal fists.
I know, right?
So yeah, I had that in my earbud for a while today while I was getting ready for other things. It was really, really fun. And I can't wait to see more of it. Honestly, whenever we debut They Came from the Cyclops' Cave, I'd love to be in that as somebody who religiously watched like Xena and Hercules as a kid.
Yeah.
And as somebody else pointed out.
For the people who were asking during the Trinity panel and during the Storypath panel, can Storypath handle fantasy? Here is your answer.
I mean,
I'm sorry we couldn't talk about it at the time.
Right.
But this is your answer.
I mean, also we do have like Zion.
Yes.
Or urban fantasy.
Well, I mean,
the answer I gave at the time was if you combine sort of what we're doing with the MMO in Anima and you combine that with Scion, you can more or less zero in on the kind of fantasy you want to play.
Right.
But here we're just doing straight fantasy. So, whatever.
But I mean, that is something that I know, like, I know I'm going to talk about Anima some more, but I don't care.
We can talk about all the new stuff because we're excited about it. It's shiny and fun.
It's true. It is shiny and fun.
Also, it's our con. And Rich isn't here to steer us in any direction. So we can just do whatever we want.
We're in charge.
Rich, don't watch this video.
I'm out of control.
Damn it. We're not recording this, right? This one's not going to YouTube. No. But I remember when we pitched Anima, one of the things that Rich was actually really excited about was that it was a way to kind of do fantasy, specifically in Trinity, in a way that does not break what Trinity tries to do. And then it just, the nature of how these things kind of pan out was like, oh, then Cyclops Cave got pitched, and it's okay, here's another take on that. But none of them is what we think of as D&D quote unquote style fantasy. Everything is kind of its own distinct taste, because we do have D&D style fantasy. That's Scarlands, that's Legend Lore, to a degree that's Pugmire. So I mean, we don't necessarily need to do that again in Story Path, but here's other ways that you can do something that's pretty close to it. And like Ian said, if you kind of just kludge those together, you can.
Yeah, totally. And one thing that I love about Cyclops Escape, probably my favorite thing, was that instead of make a whole new system for magic, they're just like magic is special effects. You have to spend things to make magic happen. And the harder the special effect, the more it costs. So I think Matthew's example earlier was like, if you want to go invisible, that's really easy in a movie because you can just leave the set and do a voiceover. So that's a really easy one to do. But if you're like trying to shoot lightning at your hands from the bad guy, that's a little bit more complicated and probably looks very, very animated and terrible. So,
which is awesome. I'm so glad that Matthew did that.
Yeah. No, I am a big fan of how that's going to work. Especially because like I have such a soft spot for cheesy fantasy movies. I grew up on a lot of them. My mom was a big fan of both Krull and Kull the Conqueror, which I got mixed up a lot when I was a child.
I can imagine. And they're very different movies.
They're very different. They're both very bad.
Oh, they're very bad, but they're very different.
Good. I want to do the Masters of the Universe movie, the live action one. That's like my number one thing I want to play in Cyclops Escape. But yeah, no, there's so much stuff I want to do with that because I love cheesy special effects. I even like I love going back to TV shows from like the 80s and 90s and being like, that's terrible, and I love it.
Frank Langella was masterful as Skeletor.
Oh my God. And you're joking, but also he kind of was.
Yes.
But it was like he was playing in a slightly different movie from everyone else, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah, totally. And so, especially with the new Masters of the Universe TV show coming out, well, maybe some new fodder for that on Netflix here soon. Because the preview looked fantastic, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like He-Man has too many muscles because they somehow made him more muscular than he was in the 80s, and I'm like, but also it's kind of more like an Incredible Hulk vibe, and I can roll with that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool.
And they have Mark Hamill as Skeletor.
Yes.
Oh man.
Anytime you put Mark Hamill in anything, I'm like, yep, happy now.
Oh man.
My boyfriend has a much better eye or ear for like recognizing people than I do, and so half the time we'll be like watching some random new thing that we haven't seen before, and he's like, "Is that Mark Hamill?" And I look it up, and I'm like, "Yeah, it is. Of course, it's fucking Mark Hamill."
Speaking of which, there is an episode. I forget the name of the show, but for a while, there was a DC show that was only 15 minutes long. It was a couple of years ago. Each episode was like 15 minutes long. And there was one of those where Mark Hamill played every single character he's played in the DC universe. So it featured the Joker, it had the Prankster, it had Mark Hamill as Mark Hamill.
The Joker and the Trickster kidnapped Mark Hamill, and they were stopped by Swamp Thing, all of which were voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yes, that's right.
That's amazing. What did I just see? You were talking about... I'm like looking things up. This is what happens when I do the podcast. I'm, like,
and they were actually stopped by Mark Hamill, as I recall, because Mark Hamill is such a good voice actor. He was able to impersonate the voices of the other characters.
That's right.
Somebody mentioned in chat that Lance Reddick is also in everything, which he totally is. And they just announced this weekend that he's going to be Wesker in the Resident Evil series from Netflix.
Nice.
So I'm very excited about that because he's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, Eddie, very important question for the closing ceremonies for OnyxPathCon.
Yes.
Have you watched any of Lupin yet?
No, I'm waiting. I want to, but it's AfterCon because I want to focus on that, and I knew I was going to do that this weekend.
We watched the first episode last night after the game.
Oh, don't tell me anything because it ended on a cliffhanger, and it's just like, I gotta see what he did.
The first episode also ends on a cliffhanger. They're all cliffhangers.
Well, I know, but I mean that specific cliffhanger was so just.
No.
I mean, it's one thing is like ending a cliffhanger. When a show ends on a cliffhanger, it's like, okay, well, that's a pretty common way to like, hey, give us another season because the fans want to know what happens. But that specific cliffhanger was like something that the whole show was pointing towards, and then it's like that's the one thing I wanted to know the answer to.
Right. Yeah, no. Either way, the first episode was good. We'll see what happens. I've still got some more episodes to go, obviously. And also, if anybody has any questions in the chat while we're talking, feel free to throw them in the chat. Put question in front of them if you can. I'll keep an eye out on it. This is kind of a rambly conversation, but let's go back to the con a little bit. Eddy, what were your highlights, and how do you think the anime game went?
I mean, obviously, I want to talk about animas, but aside from that, the disability panel was really cool.
I actually watched that one. Yeah, that was great.
I mean, it was kind of, on some level, it was a reenactment of the one we did in Virtual HorrorCon, but we added Spider into the mix, which he is amazing, of course.
Yeah.
And so just brought a whole new perspective on things. And it was, to me, there's a certain mindset when you're sitting in a panel, right? Mm-hmm. The first 15 minutes are, how in the hell am I going to fill an hour? And the last 15 minutes are, oh my God, it's been over an hour.
Like, I have so much more to say. How am I going to say it in this time?
Right. Yeah. And that exactly happened, because I started going through topics, and we did the first two, and I'm like, we might be done here real fast. And then Spider's like, so I have opinions. And I'm like, okay, never mind. Panel was taken care of.
Yeah, that was happening during our Chronicles panel earlier today, because Eric Zawadzki is so passionate about Deviant that he would just like get on a roll talking about Deviant. And I was like, Eric, we have 18 minutes to take questions. like Megan hasn't talked about Mage yet. Like, we are trying here. And I love that our developers and our writers are that passionate. It makes me really happy, whether it's about disability advocacy or just about the game line that they work on. Like, that's a big hallmark of the RPG industry in general, because I feel like most of us wouldn't work for this amount of money if we didn't love what we did. Because it's the RPG industry, so no one makes a lot of money, and except Hasbro. So like I love how fan everybody is. I've had to like stop myself from talking about Essence and like Chronicles panels, where I'm like, but I just want to talk about this right now because it's my current baby.
Right, and that's one thing I know. No one's just said anything, but something I've been worried about is that, because this is OnyxPathCon and we're talking about the big things that are right now, either like happening right now or on the immediate horizon, like we just started working on or just about to launch. So, there's like about 6 to 8 products that we were talking a lot about during the show. And I was worried people like going, but you didn't talk about my favorite game. And it's like, one, there's so many games we work on.
So many games.
Hard to do that.
We have something like 24 games floating around at any given time, and we're adding more. So
yeah,
I mean, we have more than that, because I have a dozen just under my belt.
Well, I mean, games versus not products, just games.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, but like Chronicles is 11 games.
Right.
And then I also have Exalted, so that's 12.
Right. But I mean, so that's one piece of it. But another piece of it is, like you said, it's like, this is our babies right now. I mean, if you talk to us in 2-3 months, we're gonna be like, okay, but this is the now thing I'm talking about, but I mean, that doesn't change the fact that we love all of our games. I mean, if we didn't love them, we wouldn't be making them. I mean, there have been opportunities in the past that we've been like, okay, that might be lucrative, but would we enjoy making that, And sometimes it's like, no, we're just gonna pass on it, because that's not something we would do well, or something we would enjoy doing.
Also, that's the reason of why, like, not everybody on the freelancer staff can be fans of every single game, because there's too many.
Absolutely not.
So that's the other thing that's great about it, is like, if I'm not a Werewolf the Apocalypse fan, which I always bring up as my example, then I'm not upset that I didn't get tapped to work on Apocalyptic Record. Because there are lots of Werewolf fans that will be happy to write on it, and Werewolf devs and writers, and that's amazing. Like, I think the only game that I like kind of poked at somebody about wanting to write on was Anima.
Yeah.
Everything else has been kind of a like, Dixie, you seem like you're into this, and I'm like, oh yes, I am. I would love to write on that. But with Anima, I like went to Eddy and was like, can you give me words? Please, I need words.
No, you also poked me about Squeaks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fine. Well, I love the mice and rats.
No, totally. I mean, if I was like, I think it can't be right, because I know there's another time we had a similar conversation.
Yeah, but for like, They Came From Beyond the Grave, Matthew approached me, right, because he knows I'm a big horror fan, and also I do have that kind of sense of humor. That's my tone. I think I realized that for Beyond the Grave specifically, the tone you need to nail is Good Omens, if possible.
Yeah,
where it's a little silly, but it's grounded in reality. And grounded in something kind of big and cosmic and weird. And I've read Good Omens probably 10 times, and I've seen the show several times. So I'm like, oh, I can do this. This is fun. But that's what's so great. It's like if you're not super into a thing, you don't have to work on it because we're not going to make you. That's one of the best things about being a creative.
Right. And that's, I think, something that's, to go back to the first convention, something we kind of realized is like we could never afford to put on a physical convention, but when virtual conventions became a thing, it's like we have enough content to do a whole weekend.
Oh, God, yeah.
And one thing I think we've learned this year is that we probably have a little too much content even for our weekends now.
Like, yeah, we definitely erred on the side of all the OnyxPath owned IPs, obviously.
Sure.
So those were all the kind of things we mainly showcased for the OnyxPath owned and the OnyxPath like specific partners, such as Bug Study.
Right.
And then we did as much as we could with the other properties because there's so many of them. Like we can't have a game for every single Chronicles game, which is also why I like doing the start playing thing. Was because they could have as many games as they wanted over on that site. They were private games, they weren't stream games, but that's great. Like people still got to play. Because if we go to like PAX Unplugged, we're probably not running Demon the Descent demos. Like at this point, if somebody wants to run Demon the Descent and start playing for this, please do. That's amazing.
And building off on that, and sort of the opposite of Eddy's previous point, where there might be a product that's lucrative, but we just we wouldn't really enjoy doing it so much. Sort of the opposite of that is people sometimes ask us, well, why don't you show a little love to Changeling the Dreaming? I don't know.
Right.
It might be lucrative it's a combination of maybe it's not going to be lucrative for us and maybe Paradox doesn't want to approve it. That doesn't mean we don't love these game lines.
Yeah.
Right? If we don't love these game lines, we wouldn't have published them in the first place.
Right.
Someone give me Demon the Fallen 20 and Hunter the Reckoning 20.
Yeah, we would love to do Hunter and Demon 20th Anniversary Editions. But
I love Hunter so much. I love Hunter the Reckoning.
But it's a combination of maybe it wouldn't be lucrative for us, and maybe Paradox hasn't given us approval. So
and to be perfectly clear, we keep saying we're lucrative. We're not talking like this won't make us $1 million, so we're not do it. It's can this break even? Can we not lose money on it?
A lot of times it's just a break even point, and then like, okay, yeah, we'll give it a shot, and maybe it'll do better than we expect. Who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, we operate on very slim margins in the tabletop RPG industry. I don't think people realize exactly how small an industry this is.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, we love all our games.
And so where I was going originally with all this was that one of the reasons why I've been enjoying the fact that we've been able to have panels focused on different parts of our catalog is to see that passion, is to see the developers and the freelancers talking so excitedly about the stuff they've worked on. And the fact that because this is our convention, we can do an entire hour to just they came from. Yeah. Which in a bigger convention would get a quick mention in our What's Up panel, and that's it, unfortunately. But no, there's obviously Matthew and Michaela and that entire team really love they came from and can talk about it for an hour. And so now we have a chance to kind of talk about that. And so that was one thing that I really liked about this convention is the chance to see not only all of our fans' passion, but also all of developers and freelancers' passion, because they've been, really just kind of in their own heads for a year, and chance to actually, like, let me tell you about the thing I've been working on. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Sorry, go ahead, Dixie.
No, you go. I was just agreeing.
Okay. Another thing, which, like, if we did manage to run, say, a Trinity Continuum panel at a convention like Gen Con, and there's maybe a dozen people in the room, that looks kind of empty, and it's kind of disheartening for the people on the panel, maybe.
Yep.
But if there's a dozen active people in chat, that's rocking.
Yeah, we're having a great
time.
Yeah. No, that's super important. So back to my original question to y'all, though. Ian, did you watch the anime game?
I caught part of it because the Trinity Continuum panel covered the first
only half an hour. Only half an hour.
Only half an hour.
So
then
how
I
did
crossed
y'all feel
over
about the anime game?
From what I saw, which was I saw you guys in the MMO up until you took the break, and then I had to do something else.
Okay.
But yeah, from what I saw, you guys were having a great time, and it was fun, and you were getting into a lot of MMO isms, which was nice. Like posting emotes and stuff like that. It was fun.
I loved that we had one player who was an RPer, and the rest of us were like, "We're on a mission, y'all. Like, why are you doing? Stop it." And I love that dynamic. I think that my next character in a game that is upcoming is going to be the influencer streamer type. So I'll probably be doing maybe not RP, but definitely like that sort of thing where I'm like, no, I gotta take a selfie. Please get over here. I need likes.
And actually, something came out of that ink. So you probably missed this part. And something I was going to chat with you anyway about is I kind of off the fly, jokingly said, "Oh, like Dixie said, one player just talked to the NPC to get all the dialogue options." And I jokingly said, "You get the well-read achievement." And then I started doing that a couple of times throughout there. And it's like there may actually be for like if we do a support book for Anima is actually doing like like maybe achievements are like another source of like momentum or something that you could spend to do stuff in the MMO.
Sure. I got an achievement and I was very happy with myself.
Which one did I give you?
I asked you for the safety dance because we did something that was really reminiscent of a WoW achievement in Nexramas called the safety dance, which is like dodge. Like there's a boss in Nexramas in World of Warcraft where you have to like there's acid coming out of the floor and you have to like move to certain points throughout the floor. And if you get up on the platform, like you get slowed. And it's annoying.
Right.
And getting a whole guild to do it or 25 people or whatever it was for Nex is really rough because there's always somebody who's like, I wasn't paying attention. And you're like, why weren't you paying attention? This boss is important. So yeah, we love that. And because we were navigating through a field of exploding magma, I was like, I feel like this is also the safety dance. Like this also makes sense to me, trying to avoid the AoEs, you know?
And honestly, as someone who has had to write achievements, there's a kind of a sweet spot of like there's the obvious achievements you want to do, but also it's fun to do those little quirky ones because people love them. Like just now I've been playing Transformers Battleground, surprising absolutely nobody who knows me.
You? Transformers?
Right.
Out of character.
Someone said, here's a Transformers game that's like Fire Emblem. And it's like, okay, so now I own this. But one of the achievements is if you get all of your characters around an Energon cube. And I'm just like, there's no tactical reason to do that. But I accidentally did it just because of the way the map was laid out. And then it gave me that achievement. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't know why I have that, but now I'm glad I did that.
One of my favorite things playing Genshin Impact, like I've been doing recently, is like just getting a random achievement that I didn't even know was an achievement because I tend to not look through the list beforehand. I just kind of accumulate them as they happen. And every now and then it's like, oh, you killed 4 slimes with cryo at the same time. You got a like achievement about ice cream. And I'm like, okay, like I'm excited.
Sure, why not?
Have you guys played Mass Effect?
I haven't played
not the new version.
Remaster.
Okay. So are you familiar with Conrad Werner?
No. I've only played Andromeda.
Okay.
Nobody at me. I don't want to hear it.
In the original trilogy, there's a character you can encounter in all 3 games named Conrad Werner, and he's a big Commander Shepard fan. And as you talk to him, he's like the protagonist of his own game because you ask him, so Conrad, what have you been up to lately? Oh, sometimes I poke around in crates to see if there are any loose credits. You really think we can defeat the Reapers? Yeah, I think so. Once we get everyone together, we'll kill them or die trying. Okay. Do you really think we can defeat the Reapers? Conrad, you just asked me that. Sorry, sometimes I like to ask people everything I can think of, and I don't always remember what I've asked them already.
Okay. Remaster is on my list of things to play in the coming year. So I will definitely keep an eye out for that character. This is amazing.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds almost as awesome as when I found the Andromeda Werewolf the Apocalypse Easter eggs, where they were all playing like some kind of
Grant the Ragening.
Grant the Ragening.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, there's a series of like bulletin board posts you can run across. They're trying to get players for Grant the Ragening. And then they have all these different conversations about getting players together for that. And it was like, I was playing Andromeda and like, I was playing it on my Xbox, so I couldn't take like easy screenshots. Like I was playing it on the computer. I was like taking pictures of my computer or like of my TV and like setting them to like Rose Bailey and stuff. And I was like, look at this thing. Look at this ridiculous thing from Mass Effect Andromeda. It makes me so happy.
That reminds me.
I actually did a fake cover for Grant the Rating.
Of course,
you did.
Of course you did, Ian Watson.
Shocked. But no, actually, you can back me up. Last year, for a while, I was doing a variety of mystery games on my Twitch stream. Mm-hmm. And there's this one called The Dark Side Detective, which is a little indie game. Not many people ever pixel based, and it's a lot of short cases. Like, this is perfect for the Twitch format. I could play a case in about an hour and a half, and so I was just going through all the cases. And at one point in time, I had no clue, but I started going through the bookshelves, and at one point in time, it says, a copy of Vampire the Masquerade. And I'm like, really?
It makes me happy.
It was so good.
That was one of the ones you had on stream, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
That was
so
fun.
what else did you like about Anima, Eddy? Like, what did you find exciting to run for that?
So I mean, I'm very critical of my own work, and so I saw a lot of the flaws and things I want to tweak and adjust. But I mean, I was pleased at how much of the MMO experience we got in just over an hour.
Yeah.
And a few people even remarked on that, and the fact that it was very streamlined, which is good, because we didn't want it to feel like it was a slog. We wanted to feel like you want to get in, you want to get a taste of that experience and pop out to go back into your cyberpunk fun.
Right.
And I feel like we really nailed that. And really just huge props to you and Danielle for taking a completely new fantasy world and condensing it down into basically bite-sized chunks in a way that doesn't feel derivative. So that
wasn't completely new. Dominic wrote lots of material on it.
Well, I meant new as in like not an obvious D&D or WoW ripoff.
Yeah, which I actually love though. Like as someone who in World of Warcraft played like Draenei for forever, so not playing a traditional like elf or dwarf or whatever. I love the fact that we don't have those peoples in our game. I love that we have bird people and fish people and sentient mannequins and bugs and stuff, because it's very different from your typical offerings. Which are like, which kind of pretty and or horrifying humanoid do you want to be? And you can still be a pretty and or horrifying humanoid, but you have a lot more options, in my opinion.
You could be a pretty butterfly, as Rich pointed out.
Rich was a pretty butterfly.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I feel like the core of what we're shooting for, and it was an ambitious goal of doing that. And the fact that we actually nailed it more or less out of the park the first time is just really, really great. I'm definitely at the stage of add more material. We can tweak this. I want to kind of adjust some of the systems because they're not working out the way that I think they should work out. I have to kind of do some adjustments at the fly during the game. But I mean, the core is solid, and that's good, especially for a brand new Trinity game.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Essence right now, personally. It's like we have quite a few tweaks to make after the Kickstarter, which is we knew it was going to happen, because like we put it in front of all of our eyes, we put it in front of a few new people's eyes, but the new people that were seeing it also mostly had like a storyteller who knew what to knew how to explain things, right? It would be H or Monica or somebody running it, and so having it out there for a bunch of people that hadn't seen it before, hadn't run it before, we're like, oh, okay, we need to clarify 500 points that need like one word tweaks to make them completely clear. We have to go through all that,
right? And
also there are a few versioning errors, because it is a multi-developer book, it's a multi-writer book, and so like there's just a lot happening with that. So I look forward to continuing to watch people pick apart the charms all week, and by that I mean I'm staying off the Discord for a while. But then I will go through.
You're looking forward to it had happened.
yes, I'm looking forward to next week when that's happened already.
Right.
But then I am looking forward to actually going through with Monica and Neil and like implementing everything and making it happen. Because we do want to give you the most polished game. That's why I've been really big on stressing, kind of like with Anima, Essence is like an unedited game. It hasn't gone through an editor even for clarity yet. And so it needs that, but it also needs like a little bit of a dev pass still, because we wanted to see what would happen when we put it in, people's hands.
But I mean, again, it's I feel like we hit with Anima yesterday where you guys hit with Essence a year ago, which is you rolled it. I remember you all were nervous about rolling it out last year at the con, and it hit really, really well the first time. And then of course I remember Neil and Monica were like, hey, we have a lot of stuff we need to change, but the core of what you wanted more or less worked out of the box. And that's surprisingly rare in game design. And it is heartening that our teams are generally hitting that a lot more than missing. There's been certainly games where we've had to go back to the drawing board and do some heavy work on them, but
Right.
those two games were not those. And those are two games that were pretty strong challenges ahead of them.
Yeah. If anybody thought that they were going to be getting like the completed version of Essence during this Kickstarter, they were sorely mistaken. But we are doing our best and we're trying to address things. And we may even do a few tweaks before we put up the compiled manuscript. Because I know a lot of folks are like itching to play right now, so we might do a couple of the like major tweaks in the next couple weeks or the couple weeks after the Kickstarter, and then send that to James as a compiled manuscript. Just depending on timing, hopefully we can do that. But yeah, no, super excited. Love Anima. Cannot wait to see where that goes. I also love the idea that I had last night of like playing Pugmire for an hour in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like oh, we're gonna log into our cute dog game.
Yeah, that might be a fun. Hey, it might be a fun community content project.
Yeah, totally.
Here's our skin Pugmire into an MMO.
I think for Quiplash tonight, I have a prompt that's like, what is the least likely like actual game for us to put into Anima as a game you can play?
Yeah, it's funny. I should have. I didn't. But when you first posted, like, hey, I need Quiplash prompts, I should have just dumped a whole bunch of Pugmire ones. And I was like, no, I don't want to make it all about Pugmire.
No one dumped Pugmire ones in, so I had to make a bunch up.
Oh, well, I should have gone Management Instinct.
Well, you still can, because I can add terms for the next 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll have to.
Like, you can just message them to me if you want to.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, and I'll just throw them in real quick.
I actually figured out what's the format of them. I'm excited to play Quiplash before.
So Quiplash will be like, so-and-so chose blank instead of X, and that's what happened. Or like, what is
also kind of like black cards in Cards Against Humanity?
Kind of, yeah. Like, what is the worst possible name for a Trinity supplement?
Okay.
Yeah. So usually it's supposed to be like silly and fun and ridiculous.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
I think I did the
Thripplashes.
Thriplash,
where there are 3 answers.
Yeah, like all 3 answers are sort of given at once, and each is sort of like escalating.
Mm-hmm.
So the third is supposed to be like the punchline almost to
okay. Got it.
Yeah, so it'll be like, what 3 things did so and so do on their first date with the Scarlet Empress? And it'll be like, flowers, candy, conquered the realm.
Right.
Like, that kind of silly thing.
What do you expect to see in the next Pugmire expansion? Pugs, hugs, slugs.
Exactly. So we have a couple of questions, and we have 18 minutes. We'll go ahead and go through some of those. I'm scrolling back up. Fear Grounds asked if we would be seeing more Onyx Path content coming to Fantasy Grounds. My answer is just that we're trying to do more BTT support in general.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say specifically like, yes, Fantasy Grounds will happen tomorrow, but
no, I do know that Fantasy Grounds is one of the ones that we're targeting. There's a few that we're looking at. I know Fantasy Grounds has been discussed a lot. So, I mean, I think the long-term answer is yes. But yeah, I can't tell you what's going to happen or when by any stretch of imagination. But
yeah, but we're trying to do that as like stretch goals on Kickstarters and stuff. It's like, we're going to do virtual tabletop support, because if this past year taught us anything, it's that people will happily play virtually if that's the option available to them. And I think a lot more people are going to play virtually now that they kind of realize, like, you can people all over the world and you can still wear your pajamas.
Yep.
I'm wearing pajama pants.
Nice.
And have been all weekend, no matter what I've looked like from here up.
Bold of you to assume that the rest of us are wearing pants at all.
I mean, I'm wearing pajama pants. They're really comf. Hot Dog Wizard asks, as we move out of COVID time, are you thinking about continuing with annual virtual conventions? We love in-person ones, but this format allows us to play more games and do more in general. I'll let you two answer this as well, but like I personally would love to keep doing, if not like an Onyx Path convention, like an Onyx Path weekend. Like we're gonna do a weekend of actual plays and stuff, because I love the fact that we've had fans from all walks of life and all over the world that can attend these. I know that in-person conventions have, of course, a geographic obstacles because it's hard to get to everywhere, and also financial obstacles, etc., and sometimes accessibility obstacles.
Yep.
And I like the fact that this kind of can bypass all of that and anybody can join. What do y'all think?
Well, any convention requires planning. So, I mean, once we get back to in-person conventions, we might find that we're sort of planned out and we don't have the energy to do a virtual convention, and I can get that. But theoretically, yes, I would love to keep this going year after year because we get to reach so many people that we don't normally get to reach.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the caveat of I am not rich, even though, as we've established last year, it's 15 minutes past the hour, and therefore I legally own the company. But despite my Shanghaiing of OnyxPath until this panel is over, I know rich enough that this kind of stuff will do probably a debrief, look at some numbers, see what our metrics are, all that kind of biz dev stuff, and assess it. But I think Ian's earlier point is the fact that the biggest obstacle would be right now we have no other conventions to plan for, and therefore we can devote time to this. Once we do have physical conventions to plan for, that's going to take up a certain amount of time, and we may find that we just don't have the energy for something like this. So yeah, it might be something more like Dixie said, where it's just we just put some panels and games up and call it a day and let everybody else do games themselves or whatever. It might be something like this. It might be bigger. I mean, we may find that the opposite is true. It's like maybe rather than focusing in-person conventions, we decide that this is more beneficial for us. That's something that we won't really know until we have a better sense of what real world conventions are going to look like and how that intersects with this. Because thus far it's been binary. We either do in-person conventions or these.
Right.
By the end of this year, we'll be looking at a hybrid approach, and that's going to change things. So we just don't have a solid answer.
Yeah, I could definitely see trying to do more like fan weekends or like maybe do the occasional Q&A on here. So even if we don't keep doing like this exact 3-day event every single year, I do love, like I said, that it lets people from all over and from all walks of life join.
Yep.
So I would love to just do like regular like quarterly Q&As or do the occasional like actual play that's a little bit different from most of our actual plays where it's like us playing it or doing a play test. So yeah.
But I think to your point about VTTs I think is a larger consideration is that we had been wanting to move into things like Twitch and virtual tabletops and whatnot as kind of a secondary goal. And one thing 2020 showed us is that it really should be much more of a primary goal. So putting aside the whether this convention will happen next year or not, us doing more virtual events is very likely going to happen, or virtual support of some kind. I think we're going to continue to provide Twitch content, continue to provide VTT content, like you said, do some kind of ad hoc things, because we find that, you did the Exalted kind of hangout Jackbox thing, and that was good.
Which we've done twice, and it was fun both times.
Right. So I think we will probably do more of that kind of stuff, even if it doesn't look like this exact format. So I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying we will do more things. We just don't know what that looks like yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we do this again, great. If we don't do this exact thing again, awesome. It was a sign of the times. But totally happy to keep letting more people access to talk to us and hang out with us because we love that. And I mean, I love all the folks that I see at conventions, but I also love that I can interact with people from Europe, like on the regular in here, or West Coast folks who might not be able to get to PAX U or what have you. So yeah, we're super excited about that.
There's one kind of related point that I think is useful that we don't really talk about a lot in regards to conventions is that the day-to-day, the week-to-week, the month-to-month work, we generally, by nature and by design, will focus on this is a problem, this is a concern, we got to get this fixed, we have to do that. And that can be exhausting. That can be demoralizing on some level. And when we had physical conventions, I know a lot of us have spoken, at least to each other, about is a chance to actually see people say, hey, thank you, I like your stuff, and get excited about it and see that excitement. And that always energized me, at least. It's like, oh, cool, these are the people I want to make these games for. And events like this weekend had done a really good job of being that kind of methadone, if you will, of a very similar version of that experience of people who are like, I'm excited about Anima, I'm excited about Pugmire, I'm excited about Essence, I'm excited about, they came from Cyclops Cave, I'm excited about these things. And seeing that excitement really does help. I know lots of times people say, hey, what can we do to kind of support you? And the first answer is always buy our stuff. That's the most obvious way to support us. But beyond that, taking the time to say thank you, taking the time to talk about how excited you are, really, 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 really does help.
Yeah, tell us if you enjoyed a book, and if there was something specific you liked, call that out. Like, hey, I really enjoy that, Slider is still alive in this edition of Aberrant. That's a really cool decision. Good.
I like Slider.
Slider's cool. Slider's canonically the colony, by the way. And like, as good as online conventions go, I mean, it's great to see all your names in chat. It's good to hear some of your voices, but I don't think physical conventions are going away, because nothing really beats seeing you face to face and having you tell me face to face that you enjoyed my work.
Humans are social creatures, yeah.
Right, exactly. Or say you bring a copy of V20 Deluxe Edition. It's not something we sell, but if you got a copy and you want me to sign it, that's a thing you can't do online.
Yeah. I do slightly miss signing autographs. I'm not gonna lie. It made me feel very special.
Exactly. Like that sort of experience is not something you can get in a virtual convention. So I don't think the physical convention experience is going away. And if we can manage to do both, then that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, totally. Zach asked, what, if any, in-person conventions are we talking about? I'd say that our main ones that we do most years are PAX Unplugged and then possibly Midwinter.
Yeah.
Everything depending. Midwinter is in Milwaukee in January. PAX Unplugged is in Philadelphia, usually in December, late November, depending on the year.
Right.
And then sometimes we send representatives to Gen Con. We don't always attend that as a whole company, just because if you look at the cost of like what it is to send it all to PAX Unplugged versus Gen Con, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Both hotel-wise and booth-wise and plane ticket-wise and everything else. You can almost every year you can find me at Dragon Con in Atlanta, but that's just me. And sometimes Eddy comes and hangs out with me.
Yeah.
But that's just a thing I do for social fun. So
the other one that we support just about every year is Save Against Fear, which is the Vedana Group's convention, which is appropriate for this weekend.
Yeah. And we often send at least a couple people up to Philly for that, for Save Against Fear. That's in October usually. Try to talk a little bit about them before we sign off.
But again, these are all maybes, because we're still at the stage of we're seeing events opening up, but it's very state by state. And there's still a chance, to be honest, where another outbreak may cause things to roll back. So we've got to be very careful which conventions we plan for, because like we talked about earlier about time and energy, if we plan for 3 months for a convention, that convention gets canceled, we may not be out money, but we're out 3 months of times we could have been spending on something else.
Yeah. So currently we don't have anything in the works right this second. We are monitoring and taking notes and seeing where things go over the next few months here, to decide if we're going to go back to anything this year or early next year, when we're going to do it. Right. I do think it is a question of, when, not if.
I don't think us never going to physical conventions is on the table. I think we will at some point be doing it again, because we did see a lot of value in going to them, and we still do. It's just of which conventions and when. I think it is, I'm not involved in convention planning, but I think it is fair to say that we're going to re-examine everything and question all of our assumptions, because the world and the world's very different than it was 2 years ago.
I miss your faces.
Go ahead, sorry.
I miss your faces.
I miss your faces.
Yeah, I mean, that's going back to that. It's like, I miss just having a drink and getting hugs from you guys. I mean,
I haven't seen these people in person in a year and a half.
Yeah,
I know.
Same.
It's terrible.
Velvet T asked if we knew that Renegade Gaming was holding their vampire convention. Absolutely, we did. We totally did. We also work with Paradox. So we worked with Outstar. I think she was actually on our vampire panel.
Yes.
Not the panel, but she was in
she was in the game. Yeah.
So
we worked with them to make sure that we didn't have too much crossover content as far as what was going up against what. Because let's face it, we're different companies. We do different things. Vampire is but one tiny fragment of the things that we work on. We have lots of things that we own that we're just as passionate about, if not more so. Yeah.
And also, I know when it first got announced, some people online were saying, like, how dare they, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if it was a physical convention, I could see more of concern, because like you have to travel to one or the other.
Yeah.
But in this environment, it's like hey, there's a vampire game camp. I can skip. I can click over, literally just click a tab, and you'll check out the They Came From game. So, I mean, there was no real downside to them having the same thing. If anything else, more people had more eyes on both sides, and like people like Outstar were able to kind of say, hey, if you're down here, you can go over there, and vice versa.
Yeah. Also, I think that most of the panels and stuff will be up as VOD within the next few weeks. So like both from them and from us, I'm assuming it'd be really silly to do all those and not put them up. So it's like Eddy said, we're at an in-person convention, and one was in like Seattle and one was in Florida. I'd be like, what the fuck?
Right.
But we planned this. We announced it. They announced theirs. We talked. It's all good. We had Outstar over here to play some Vampire. That was super fun. So yeah, no, we have no problem with that.
Nope.
We're got about 5 minutes left. Yeah, we're almost out of time. Ian, I didn't get to ask you what all your highlights were. So give us some highlights real quick before we run out of time.
The Trinity Continuum panel went really well. I was really happy with how that went, especially because I only realized about 5 minutes before it started that we had no Rich and we had no Eddy, so I was pretty much going to be the one running it.
Right.
Whoops. Good thing I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so that went unexpectedly well. I feel like I might have hogged things a little bit when people were asking questions because, say, we didn't like someone asking questions about Assassins. We didn't have anyone from the Assassins team.
Right.
So that was a question for me.
Sure.
Ian, tell me about Aegis. I mean, that's my thing that I would theoretically like to do someday. So that's a me question.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
It happens to me on playing my panels, yeah.
Yeah, but overall, I think it ran pretty well. This is like my 5th panel this weekend, and I think everything ran really smoothly. There have been a couple of hiccups, but there's always a couple of tech hiccups. That's just the way of things. Yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly stand out other than me liking to talk about my games, which, I mean,
if you're interested in doing any work in the industry, I do enjoy. There was a writing horror games panel on Friday night that I had a blast watching. And then also, of course, actual play wise, we had a Camp Murder Lake actual play, which is a book I worked on. So it's really cool to see that. I love seeing the classified actual play. And then of course the Essence one this afternoon was really fun, partially just because I knew most of the people in it, and I think they're all great. And also Monica tends to go a little gonzo for one shots because she's like, it's a one shot, who cares?
Right.
Danielle did play a character whose name I cut from the manuscript because I thought a certain person had written it. Yeah, so I was looking over the manuscripts, a brief story I'll just put here for Essence, and there was an example character named Molten Expression of Love. And I was like, a man definitely wrote this, like a gross man trying to be gross. Turns out that Danielle wrote it, and she didn't have the same connotation to it that went in my brain. Hers was about being a person filled with magma, like an actual magma person. And I was like, I thought it was a sex joke. So I had taken them out, and so Danielle played the sidereal of Serenity, Molten Expression of Love, and they were a crowd favorite today. Like, they were trying to fix everything. It was fire. They were trying to fix everything with the power of love, and then when that didn't work, they were like, "Okay, I'll cut you in half with my Dagglaive." So yeah, that was super fun. We had Hiromi and David Castro and Alex in there who had not really played Exalted, especially Hiromi, who we have been feeding bits of lore to for the past week or so. They played a spider character named Totally Above Suspicion, because they are definitely a normal human and not a spider lunar. And my favorite NPC that's ever been introduced in an Essence game popped up, and that was the Abyssal that Monica pulled in, named I just had it. The Element of Surprise.
Nice.
Excellent.
So those were all really fun for me. And I'm assuming the Jackbox game is going to be fun in about an hour and a half here, because it's going to be just very silly, very freeform. Probably going to have a drink because it's mimicking the after party after a con.
Yeah, I need to get beer ready.
We're all a little tired and we're just chilling and relaxing. It's not required for anybody, but if you want to come see the developers and writers play Jackbox and also have the chance to join in yourself, I will start running those probably right around 8 o'clock. I have tacos in the other room that I have to eat, but then I'll be running Jackbox. And yeah, we'll have some fun. It'll be great.
Now, there is a World of Darkness Ghost Hunters game starting on the Dork Tales channel also at 8 o'clock. So if people are here at our closing ceremonies, you just can't get enough of the con, you have your choice.
Yes.
Yeah, there's also a late night vampire game on Purple Tales. So yeah, you have all kinds of options. But I mean, why would you want to come hang out with me and Eddy?
We are pretty amazing.
I mean, Dark Tales is also great. So okay. Yeah, awesome. So I think that about does it. We're wrapping up the
Shut it
con,
down.
y'all.
We're done.
Shut it down. Where can people find you, follow you, Ian?
You can find me at Von Aether. Subtle advertising there for our upcoming Trinity Continuum game. I also have a link tree also at Von Aether if you'd like to see all of my other socials and would like to buy some of the bullshit that I can make. Yeah.
Awesome. Eddy?
You can find me at pugsteady.com or pugsteady on Twitter and all my social media accounts. You can also find me at theonyxpath.com, or you can find me on Discord in the OnyxPathCast channel.
I like how you just went into like the Pathcast voice.
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us for the Onyx Concast.
Several times this weekend, I was like, okay, I have to edit that in my brain.
Oh, no, I actually edited the Chronicles panel on purpose with Many Worlds, One Pathcast. Because it's me and it's fun. I'm Dixie Cochran. You can find me at Dixie Cyanide pretty much all over the internet. I'm various names and various Discords, but I always have the same neon green hair avatar that's all over the place. So I'm pretty easy to find. Thank you all for joining us at the con. We've had a blast. Everyone who showed up, thank you for all the donations to Badana. Thank you extra especially to all the people who asked how to donate directly. If you go to the badanagroup.org, I think it is.
Yes.
If you type !Badana into the chat, there's
hey, do it, Ian. Do the thing.
There you go.
So yeah, you can support them through that, and they also have their regular website that has their PayPal and everything else, so you can support them in all kinds of ways. I feel like we hit our goal, even if the start playing page doesn't say so, because we had a lot of people giving individual donations, which is exciting.
Right.
I won't know until we talk to Jack from Bodana, but it's amazing. Thank you so much. And if anybody is available in an hour and a half, I will see you on stream, or the Ghost Hunters folks will see you on stream. Thank you so much. And this means everything to us.
It does.
That showed up to hang out.
It really does.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking incredible questions. Thank you for letting us share what we're passionate about.
Yes, definitely. Have a good one.
Bye.